The Italian community in here has been so muted because Italy is geographically very close to Libya. It's the old colonial power, and it's also economically very much entwined with Libya. So there's been a puzzle as to why there hasn't been more protests. Today there was around about 50-60 people outside the Libyan embassy in Rome, and they made their voices very clear that they want to see an end to more than 40 years rule from Colonel Gaddafi. They want to see democracy in Libya as they've seen democracy in Italy. A very large expatriate community in Libya, in Italy, sorry, a very large expatriate Libyan community in Italy.
There has been some concern, hasn't there, not just in Italy, but right around Europe, that Prime Minister Berlusconi has been seen to sort of try and keep well away from it. I mean, he's seen almost as an ally, isn't he, of Gaddafi?
Well, Berlusconi was one of the first European leaders to go to Libya when the United Nations lifted the sanctions, and he led the charge, as it were, for Europeans to try and make do business with Libya. And yes, he's been very quiet. I mean, he had a very odd quote today where he said he didn't want to ring his friend in Libya. He didn't want to disturb him. He had other things on his mind, but obviously loads of Italians think otherwise.
All right, Harry Smith with the latest there in Rome. Thanks so much. So you're up to date with the latest from Europe, so time now to go back to Kamal, who's in Doha. Kamal.
Felicity, thanks so much for that. One of the developments we heard earlier from Scott Heidler at the United Nations, among other things, we had Ban Ki-moon, who's apparently spoken to Colonel Gaddafi directly, but was also some movements from the Libyan delegation at the United Nations, and we have Libya's Deputy Ambassador to the UN live with us now, Ibrahim Al-Dabashi, live in New York. Thank you for your time, sir. What is your position on what is happening in Libya at the moment and the government's position?
Thank you for having me. Well, what's going in Libya is a real genocide against the Libyan people. The Colonel Gaddafi is shooting his own people, and really the international community has to take a clear position about against the regime. I think they cannot wait much longer. What's going now cannot keep anyone silent.
So you, even as an ambassador or as part of the ambassadorial team to the United Nations from Libya, clearly do not agree with anything that this regime is doing at the moment. Do you consider yourself a defector from that government which put you there?
Well, we don't agree with anything the regime is doing. We are in the service of the people, according to even the Colonel Gaddafi philosophy. We are in the service of the people. We have never been in the service of the regime, and now we are in the disposition of the Libyan people to serve him. Certainly, the Libyan mission to the United Nations is the Libyan people's mission, and we are here to serve the Libyan people.
Have you had any contact, or has your team had any contact either with Colonel Gaddafi or with other members of the regime?
We don't have any contacts really with any official of the regime.
Are you worried about making such public comments against the regime?
No, I am not worried at all. I am worrying about the Libyan people. I am not worrying about my own safety. I am worrying about the safety of the Libyan people. The people are being shot in the streets. I am nothing with the sacrifices of the Libyan people.
So what should
in comparison with the sacrifice of the Libyan people?
So if you could speak to Colonel Gaddafi right now, what would you suggest he does?
I don't speak to Colonel Gaddafi. The only thing I tell him on the air now, he has to get out. Either he get out or the Libyan people will kick him out anyway. So that's what he has to know, and I think he knows it. He knows it, and he is trying to just delay his his fate.
Do you believe this entire regime is now crumbling? A lot of the guests we've had on Al Jazeera have been saying they think it looks like the end of this regime.
Yes, I think it is the end of the game. I think the fact he's continuing to kill his own people is the fact that the whole regime is crumbling, and we will soon see the fall of this regime.
You must be speaking to other members of the international community there at the United Nations. What are they saying to you? Is anyone showing that they would involve themselves in any way?
You know, it is a holiday today in the United States and the United Nations. Also, we don't have much contacts with the members of the United Nations, and certainly we will try our best to have something done by the United Nations to stop this genocide against the Libyan people.
That's Ibrahim Al-Dabashi, the Deputy Libyan Ambassador to the United Nations, joining us from New York. Thank you for that. Deputy Ambassador there telling us that he believes Colonel Gaddafi should simply leave, otherwise the people will force him to leave, and that his thoughts and his service is entirely with the Libyan people and not with the Libyan government or regime, however you want to describe them. Let's take you through some of the other developments that have come out of Tripoli, indeed all across Libya over the last, well, 2 or 3 hours, I guess it's been. Reports that live rounds were used on protesters in the capital, Tripoli. I've said this before, but we've spoken to someone on the ground who said he saw that as well. Mercenaries, as he described them, shooting live rounds out of four-wheel drive cars. Drive-by shootings is how he described them. Then the reports of the fighter jets attacking protesters. And that is unconfirmed. I can say that this is very much an unconfirmed point, and I've seen people on Twitter apparently inside Tripoli saying, look, this didn't happen, so we're trying to just check the validity of that. Certainly there were issues with warplanes in other parts of the country, in Benghazi. We'll tell you about that in a moment. Other developments we have seen from the British Foreign Minister, William Hague, who said he believed that the Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi had fled the country to Venezuela, but as you see on screen there, that was denied by not just a Libyan minister, but by the Venezuelans themselves, the government in Venezuela, who came out and said, no, there's absolutely no chance that Colonel Gaddafi is on his way to Venezuela. US State Department ordering all its embassy staff and family members plus non-emergency personnel to evacuate Libya, and warning other Americans in the country to take precautions, obviously, to get out of the way of any demonstrations, to take shelter and to get out of the country if at all possible. And then I mentioned the warplanes before. This is the confirmed reports we had of senior colonels from the Libyan army deciding to defect. They went to Malta. They flew there after being ordered to bomb protesters in Benghazi, which is the second biggest city. There they are on the ground, still pictures of them on the ground in Malta. Completely unannounced they arrived. Quite a bizarre situation. 2 fighter jets touching down. The 2 senior colonels got off the planes, were detained immediately and explained that they had defected because they refused to attack their own people in Benghazi. Ibrahim Jibril with me in the studio, Libyan political activist, looking at the